Avenir is a global career guidance event to empower students and assist them in identifying their ideal future career path. It was conceptualized by the Board of Directors of Indian Schools in Sultanate of Oman. The first Avenir was organized at Indian School Al Mabala in the year 2018. In 2019, Indian School El Seeb conducted the program. Indian School Muscat conducted the first virtual Avenir in the year 2020. Avenir 2021 was conducted virtually by Indian School Al Wadi Al Kabir. In 2022, the flagship school in Oman. Indian School Boshar is all set to fly the flag higher by conducting Avenir 2022 in hybrid mode. Our impeccable planning, devoted team, unmatched resources guarantee a memorable event. The 5-day event will be held from Thursday, October 13, 2022 to Tuesday, October 18, 2022. Prominent achievers, educators, and industry experts will address the audience. Universities and educational institutes from different corners of the globe will present themselves to the audience of Avenir 2022. The event is open to all educational boards, including C.B.Sc, ICSE, IGCSE, and IB. It will provide comprehensive career guidance to students to pursue their passions at national and international universities. Avenir 2022 guarantees a wealth of information and awareness on 21st century courses, scholarships, internships, and career placements. This event will assist students in discovering their ideal future career path. Let us gather together for this 5 days of excitement, effulgence, enlightenment, exploration, and exaltation. Let's join Avenir 2022 to discover you.
Opportunities don't happen. You create them. Good evening, one and all. Let me take you all through the listings of what to expect in today's session. It is the 5th session of the Mega Career Guidance event, Avenir 2022, #DiscoverYou, hosted by Indian School Boshar under the aegis of the Board of Directors, Indian Schools in Oman. The welcome address will be followed by a brief introduction of our eminent speaker. Then we should invite the esteemed speaker for his presentation. After the presentation, we should request our guest speaker to answer a few questions raised by the attendees in the question and answer segment. The continuing of the session will be taken up by the university spokesperson. The detailing of the courses available and the process of admission will be explained in detail. We should conclude this session with a vote of thanks. If you're planning for a year, sow rice. If you're planning for a decade, plant trees. If you are planning for a lifetime, educate people.
What a fantastic quote to begin the session. Good evening, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to LNE 2022 #DiscoverYou, a global career guidance program launched by Indian School Barsha under the aegis of the Board of Directors of Indian Schools in Oman. On behalf of Indian School Barsha, I, Adiba of Class 8,
And I, Rayan of Class 7,
take the proud privilege of expressing our profound gratitude to His Majesty Sultan Haitham bin Tariq Al Said for the magni and benevolence showered on the Indian diaspora in the Sultanate of Oman. May the Almighty bestow His choicest blessings on His Majesty, and may this nation experience peace and everlasting prosperity.
we are happy to welcome all the students, parents, and teachers for being a part of Avenir 2022 #DiscoverYou. Thank you one and all for your presence here this evening. It is with sheer joy and great pride that I take the task of introducing our speaker today, Ms. GAURI HARDIKAR, on the topic Teaching as a Prospective Career. Dr. GAURI HARDIKAR has over 20 years of experience in the field of teacher education. She recently opted for retirement as Associate Professor, Mumbai. She is a member of the Universal Human Values Cell, the Life Expert. She is on the syllabus committees of Mumbai University as a convener, life skills educator at the MED level, and the certificate course. She is a secretary of the Indian Ocean Comparative Education Society. In the recent past, GAURI was invited as a plenary speaker for the International Symposium on Comparative Education organized by the International Bureau of Education, IBE, UNESCO at Geneva, Switzerland. We would like to request the audience to kindly post your queries in the question and answer box. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, please join me and listen to our speaker, Ms. GAURI HARDIKAR, who will be taking on the topic, Teaching as a Prospective Career.
Thank you so much, Rayan. Good evening, everybody. And I'm so happy to be here with all of you today to be speaking on this topic, teaching as a prospective career. And at the outset, I would like to thank the management of the Indian School Boshar for inviting me and for giving me this opportunity to be with all of you. So today we are going to be speaking about teaching as a prospective career. And as I was listening to these two young people who began the session with such aplomb, with so much confidence, both of them, and such a lot of preparation, I couldn't but admire the teachers who would have coached them to do this. So when you see a person and when you look at a person, what you're actually seeing is the person himself or herself, and also the effort that a teacher or a parent has put in for that person, which is why I believe in this quote, I touch the future, I teach. So let's have a conversation about this topic. I actually don't really like webinars because I really enjoy sessions which are more interactive and where more than me speaking, you all could ask me questions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to speak for a very little time, and I hope you have a lot of questions that you would like to ask me. I was just wondering how many of you would have possibly considered teaching as a prospective career? If there's a way for you to maybe raise your hands or something, I'm just curious to know, have you ever thought that you would like to be a teacher? Anybody? Ma'am, is there a way for us to know whether they can raise their hands?
Yes, ma'am. You can see in the attendees, those who are raising the hand.
Just a minute. I'm not very familiar with Zoom. 1 minute. I go to the participants. So my students are my technology teachers because I am still struggling to learn. Okay. Where do you see? Can you help me with knowing how many people have raised their hands, please? 40 participants are there.
Till now, no
Has
one
a-
raised hand, ma'am.
No one. Oh. So nobody has really considered teaching as a prospective career. Okay. Thank you for being so honest with me because I know this is the reality. Okay. I know that normally a person, like we say, I want to become, maybe I want to do an MBA or I want to become a surgeon. People hardly ever say that I want to become a teacher. That's not a career that we choose to. But I hope after listening to me, you might want to think a little bit about it. Yeah. So, okay, has my slide changed? If you can just tell me. Can you see the slide change? Yes, just give me a thumbs
Yes,
up
ma'am.
if you can. So that, yeah,
Yes,
thanks so
ma'am.
much. Okay, thank you. So teaching as a prospective career, what I thought we would just talk about is why should one consider teaching as a prospective career? And I'm very happy to share that with you because I am a very happy teacher and I want to share my happiness with you. Okay. So why would we consider teaching as a prospective career? What do we do as a teacher? What does teaching really involve? Because you all would have seen teachers, but that's only their, their classroom work that you're seeing. So what does teaching actually involve? And how does one become a teacher if you would like to consider this as a prospective career? Okay. So if you remember the quote that I showed you, I touch the future, I teach. This is a quote by Krista. Have you heard of Krista? I had not heard of her till I found this quote. Okay. But turns out that she's a really famous person. Krista is someone, she's an American lady who has an asteroid, a crater on the moon, and a crater on the planet Venus named after her. What's interesting is though she's an American, the crater on the planet Venus was named after her by the Soviet Union. Okay. She has a space center in her name. She has over 40 schools around the world which are named after her. And she has also many, many scholarships and awards in her name. She also has silver dollars minted with her name on it in the year 2019. Are you curious to know who this lady is then and why are we talking about her in this session on teaching? Well, that's because A, Krista was the one who gave this quote, I touch the future, I teach. And B, because Krista is a teacher. She was a teacher. She was a teacher astronaut. Now, who is a teacher astronaut? You must be wondering, how does one become a teacher astronaut? Well, Krista started as a social studies teacher in a school in New Hampshire in the US. NASA was on a mission when they had their space shuttle Challenger. You might have read about it or heard about it. They were on a mission to find an ordinary person who would go with the team of astronauts on the Challenger. So they thought we would like to have a teacher. Now, why a teacher? Okay. A teacher, because a teacher is somebody who is always in touch with lots and lots of young minds. And if you want to somehow get to young minds, you have to go through a teacher. Okay. So which is why they thought we would like to have a teacher on board the Challenger shuttle. So they had a program, okay, which was called the Teacher in Space program. 11,000 teachers. You might imagine how many people would have applied. 11,000 teachers applied. Out of that, those 11,000 teachers, Krista was the one who was selected. Okay. She trained for 1 year to be an astronaut. And what she was most excited about is that she was going to go up in the Challenger and she was going to be holding classes for her students from there. She would be actually teaching students from the space shuttle. Okay. And it would be in a program which would be telecast to students. And that is what really, really excited her. That's what she has said. Unfortunately, the Challenger mishap happened. You must have read about this also. It was a disaster. The Challenger crashed minutes or seconds after it took off, 1 minute and a few seconds. All the 7 people aboard were killed, including Krista. Okay, but did her ambition to influence young minds die with her? No, it did not. The legacy that she left behind, which is this, lives on years after her death, and I think it will always be there. Now, this is what a teacher can do. Many times when we think of teaching as a profession, we just look at the profession as somebody who comes into class, speaks for half an hour, 45 minutes, goes out, gives you exams which are something you really don't want, and then gives you results which are something that you look forward to, but yet you never look forward to. Okay, so that is how we look at a teacher, but that's not really the limit of what a teacher can do. What a teacher can really do is to influence people. What a teacher can really do is to make a life. And if that is something that you would like to do, my invite to you is to just look at teaching as a possible career that you might like to have. Okay. So that brings me to a question which I have often thought about, and I very often ask in my class. So you all, I don't know whether you have understood this. I'm a teacher educator. Okay, a teacher educator is somebody who teaches teachers, right? So when I start a new year, I have about 50 students who are training to become secondary school teachers, and I always ask them, have you ever played teacher when you were a child? Okay, pretend play, where you were the teacher and then your friends were your students, something like that, or your siblings were your students. So I'm asking that question to you now. How many of you have played teacher when you were a child? Pretend play. Anyone here? You can raise your hand. Okay, how do I see the raised hands? Real, has anybody raised their hand? If you can please help me with that. Do you see any raised hands?
Sure, ma'am, we will inform you.
Okay, so you mean nobody in these, I think there are some 40 participants, not one of you has played teacher? Then you must. Okay, if you have never pretend played teacher, then it's high time you really got into the teacher's shoes and you thought somebody and you've discovered for yourself what it is like. Okay, so I think every child at some point of time in their lives plays teacher, but of course, yes, if you have been playing video games, then probably yes, maybe you have never pretend played teacher, but it's never too late to start. Okay, you can always do it again. Why should one be a teacher? Okay, one should be a teacher because teachers are role models. Now, if I ask you, have you ever been influenced by a teacher? Okay, so that influence can be in a variety of ways. For example, when I heard our 2 young hosts speaking, and I looked at the confidence with which they spoke and the pride that was reflected in their voices and their diction, okay, what happens is you are modeling yourself, you are role modeling yourself after your teachers and of course your parents and people at home. So when you see a teacher speak in a particular way, you will start speaking like that. When you see a teacher write in a particular way, you will start doing that. Have you come across this anytime? Maybe our young hosts, if you are, or you can speak, you can just talk with me if you're unmuted. Okay.
When participant can't interact.
Participants can't
It's a
interact.
webinar.
Okay. Okay, fine. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thank you, ma'am. So, you know, the biggest drawback of being a teacher is not being able to do a webinar. Okay. Because a webinar involves just a one-way interaction where the person just comes and talks. But as a teacher, we always want to know what our students are thinking, and we always want to talk to them and listen to them and find out, and then sort of, tailor our presentation to that. Okay. So teachers are role models, and oftentimes we would model ourselves on our teacher. I remember when I was in primary school, I had a teacher whom I liked very, very much. She was my most favorite teacher, and she always wore her watch on her right hand. Okay. And at home, my mom and my father and everybody else wore the watch on their left hands, which is of course more practical because your right hand does a lot of work, and you might get some water and stuff on your watch. But when I started wearing a watch, guess which hand did I wear the watch on? I started wearing it on my right hand. And this was years after that primary teacher was my teacher. Okay. If I were to ask you, can you recall the name of your primary teacher? I'm sure you would be able to. Though you might not recall what you learned in primary school, you will definitely be able to recall the names of the teachers who taught you. Okay. So teachers influence us a lot, and one can never know when the influence of a teacher stops. And that can be either ways. Okay. A teacher can influence a student to do his or her best. Or if we are unfortunate enough, I'm sure none of you would have experienced this in a wonderful school like you're studying in. But if you have a teacher who ends up really hurting your self-esteem, that might have very lasting consequences. So as a teacher, we can touch lives. And I think that is the biggest reason to be a teacher. So here, let's listen to what Rita Pearson has to say when she talks about why one should teach. Okay. May I request the IT team to kindly play the first link, please, the first video, the TED Talk. And if you could put the subtitles on, captions on, that would be nice.
Ma'am, could you please stop sharing the screen so that I can share the video?
Oh yes, sorry, I'm so sorry. Yeah,
Thank you so
I
much.
have to do that. Yes, stop share. Okay.
I have spent my entire life either at the schoolhouse, on the way to the schoolhouse, or talking about what happens in the schoolhouse. Both my parents were educators. My maternal grandparents were educators. And for the past 40 years, I've done the same thing. And so needless to say, over those years, I've had a chance to look at education reform from a lot of perspectives. Some of those reforms have been good, some of them have been not so good. And we know why kids drop out. We know why kids don't learn. It's either poverty, low attendance, negative peer influences. We know why. But one of the things that we never discuss, or we rarely discuss, is the value and importance of human connection. Relationships. James Comer says that no significant learning can occur without a significant relationship. George Washington Carver says all learning is understanding relationships. Everyone in this room has been affected by a teacher or an adult. For years, I have watched people teach. I have looked at the best and I've looked at some of the worst. A colleague said to me one time, they don't pay me to like the kids. They pay me to teach a lesson. The kids should learn it. I should teach it. They should learn it. Case closed. Well, I said to her, you know, kids don't learn from people they don't like. She said, that's just a bunch of hooey. And I said to her, well, your year is going to be long and arduous, dear. Needless to say, it was. Some people think that you can either have it in you to build a relationship or you don't. I think Stephen Covey had the right idea. He said you ought to just throw in a few simple things, like seeking first to understand as opposed to being understood. Simple things like apologizing. You ever thought about that? Tell a kid you're sorry, they're in shock. I taught a lesson once on ratios. I'm not real good with math, but I was working on it. And I got back and looked at that teacher edition. I taught the whole lesson wrong. So I came back to class the next day and I said, look, guys, I need to apologize. I taught the whole lesson wrong. I'm so sorry. They said, that's okay, Miss Pearson. You were so excited. We just let you go. I have had classes that were so low, so academically deficient that I cried. I wondered, how am I going to take this group in 9 months from where they are to where they need to be? And it was difficult. It was awfully hard. How do I raise the self-esteem of a child and his academic achievement at the same time? One year I came up with a bright idea. I told all my students, you were chosen to be in my class because I am the best teacher and you are the best students. They put us all together so we could show everybody else how to do it. One of the students said, really? I said, really? We have to show the other classes how to do it. So when we walk down the hall, people will notice us. So you can't make noise. You just have to strut. And I gave him a saying to say, I am somebody. I was somebody when I came. I'll be a better somebody when I leave. I am powerful and I am strong. I deserve the education that I get here. I have things to do, people to impress, and places to go. And they said, yeah. You say it long enough, it starts to be a part of you. And so, I gave a quiz, 20 questions. Student missed 18. I put a +2 on this paper and a big smiley face. He said, Miss Pearson, is this an F? I said, yes. He said, then why'd you put a smiley face? I said, because you on the roll. You got 2 right, you didn't miss them all. I said, and when we review this, won't you do better? He said, yes, ma'am, I can do better. You see, -18 sucks all the life out of you. +2 said, I ain't all bad. For years, I watched my mother take the time at recess to review, go on home visits in the afternoon, buy combs and brushes and peanut butter and crackers to put in her desk drawer for kids that needed to eat, and a washcloth and some soap for the kids who didn't smell so good. See, it's hard to teach kids who stink. And kids can be cruel. And so she kept those things in her desk, and years later, after she retired, I watched some of those same kids come through and say to her, you know, Miss Walker, you made a difference in my life. You made it work for me. You made me feel like I was somebody when I knew at the bottom I wasn't. And I want you to just see what I've become. And when my mama died 2 years ago at 92, there were so many former students at her funeral. It brought tears to my eyes, not because she was gone, but because she left a legacy of relationships that could never disappear. Can we stand to have more relationships? Absolutely. Will you like all your children? Of course not. And you know your toughest kids are never absent. Never. You won't like them all, and the tough ones show up for a reason. It's the connection, it's the relationships. And while you won't like them all, the key is they can never, ever know it. So teachers become great actors and great actresses, and we come to work when we don't feel like it, and we listen to policy that doesn't make sense, and we teach anyway. We teach anyway because that's what we do. Teaching and learning should bring joy. How powerful would our world be if we had kids who were not afraid to take risks, who were not afraid to think, and who had a champion? Every child deserves a champion, an adult who will never give up on them, who understands the power of connection and insists that they become the best that they can possibly be. Is this job tough? You betcha. Oh God, you betcha. But it is not impossible. We can do this. We're educators. We're born to make a difference. Thank you so much.
Thank you, IT team, for sharing that. So the bottom line is, why should we consider teaching as a profession? If you want to really make a difference to somebody's life, then please do consider teaching. It's one of the best ways to make a difference to someone. Yeah, like she said. Now we go on to, what does teaching involve? Okay. When you say teaching, what does it involve? Well, of course, it involves going to class and taking your classes. But apart from that, teaching involves a lot of other things. For example, all teaching involves learning. Okay. As a teacher, we have to constantly keep learning. We have to constantly keep seeing things that have changed, because we need to incorporate them into the system. We need to keep learning not only about our content matter, but we need to keep learning also about our students. We need to keep learning about people, and we need to keep learning how to build a connection with people. Okay, and that is, I think, the most exciting thing about teaching. We can build so many connections: connections with students, connections with parents, connections with authorities, connections with colleagues, connections with people all over the world. Because as an educator, I go across so many fora. Okay, so when Riyal introduced me, you would have heard. So recently, and many times, when right now, when I'm with you all here, when I'm in Mumbai, you all are in Oman, and here I am talking to you all. I hope I'm connecting with you all, and that's because I'm a teacher, right? So as a teacher, I mean, you get to really interact with so many people, and it's a part of your job to do that. Uh, you get to do a lot of research, you get to do a lot of administrative work as well. That's a part of the job. And as a teacher, the most important thing is, you get to really work on your passion. Okay. So what does teaching involve? If you were to ask me that, I would say teaching involves love. That is the first thing that teaching involves. So just to share something personal with all of you, I don't have any kids of my own. But whenever people ask me, how many kids do you have? I always say more than 1,000. You know why? Because I've been teaching 20 years. And every year I used to have 100 students. And they're all like my kids, each one of them. Yeah. Even now, if somebody calls up and the way we speak, there's so much warmth in a student's voice whom I taught 20 years back. And that kind of love that a teacher gets from her students, I don't think you will get that anywhere else. You can become a hotshot entrepreneur, okay, a unicorn. I don't know whether you will get the love that a teacher gets. You may become a very successful business person. I don't know whether you will get the love that a teacher can get. Yeah. So, as a teacher, the most touching moments of my life have been, when a student sends me a picture of a small child and says that, ma'am, I gave birth to a baby girl, and I really want your blessings for her because I think that will make her life. It's something that really touches me inside. Or when, because I'm a teacher educator and I've taught teachers, there was a student who recently called me and said, ma'am, I think of you so many times when something happens in class and I get really angry with my students, and then I control my anger. And then I think about you, how you told us never to get angry with students and try to understand them. Well, it's something I think I taught this boy 16 years back. And if he's able to take that forward, and if that love is coming back to me, it's really amazing. Today I visit anywhere in the world. Okay, we were planning to visit Canada. And I told my husband, we don't need to worry. I have so many students there. We just don't need to worry about going to Canada. They'll take care of everything. So this kind of love that you get from your children, I think that's the best and the biggest benefit of being a teacher. The second thing is, if this is your passion, okay, and I really want to invite you to find out what your passion is, because that's something that many people don't find out. Okay, we generally, it's very sad, but we would, take up something that has scope, like they say, or something that somebody has suggested for us. But if our heart is not there in it, okay, then it's very difficult for us to be happy, and it's difficult for us to put in quality work. So teaching is a job that really brings out the passion in you. Imagine doing new or something new each and every day. Wouldn't it be exciting if you had something new to do each and every day? So every day when I have to go to class, like right now I was preparing for this session, I had so much to think about. Okay, what is going to appeal to these kids? Okay, what are they thinking? It's so much for my brain, so much fodder for my brain. And when I talk to you, I feel so alive inside. And if you were talking back to me, I would feel a lot more alive. But right now also, I'm feeling so good. So that is the passion. If you're really passionate about this, then teaching is the profession for you. Another very, very positive thing that teachers do, and what do teachers do, is teachers are extremely creative. You would have seen your own teachers. Not only are teachers themselves creative, but they can inspire others to be creative as well. And that brings us to the last thing. Teachers have a lot of influence on people. Yeah, I don't know whether you have done it, but I often came home when I was a small child and my mom said, okay, this is the spelling of this word. And I said, no, my teacher said this is the spelling and this is what it is. Okay, so teachers, when teachers say something, we generally would believe it. So teachers have a lot of influence. You will have the power to change your life if you're a teacher. Yeah, so that is what a teacher does. And that is why I really would like to invite you to consider teaching as a profession for yourself. Now, if you have to do that, how do you do it? Because people rarely consider it as a professional choice. They're not prepared for it. And then we get so many students who come in to do the PA program and they feel so bad that, oh, we didn't know it at that time, so we did not choose the right subjects. So if you want to be a teacher, you can first of all select the level that you want to teach at. So you might want to teach younger kids, or you might want to teach, secondary school kids. So as you go higher, the teaching becomes easier. Let me tell you that. It's really tough to teach a KG class. It's relatively much easier to teach a class in college. Okay. So if you're really up for a challenge, become a KG teacher. It's quite tough. So if you want to teach in a primary school, you need to do a D.Ed degree, which is a diploma in education. If you want to teach in a secondary and higher secondary school, you need a bachelor's of education. Both D.Ed and B.Ed are 2-year programs, okay, 2-year full-time programs. There are many people who say that we'll do correspondence programs, but generally anywhere in the world, correspondence programs in education are not so highly rated. So if you're really looking to be a teacher, I would really advise you to go in for a face-to-face program. Invest 2 years. In India, B.Ed, that is the secondary school teaching program, is all set to become a 4-year course, which you can opt for after you finish your 12th grade. Okay, so you need to decide in your 12th grade whether you want to become a teacher, and then you can have a dual degree. You can have your maybe bachelor's degree in whatever, arts, science, commerce, and along with that you can have a teaching degree, and it would be a 4-year integrated program in teaching. And that program would make you eligible to teach secondary and higher secondary school. Suppose you want to teach, say, chemistry in a secondary or a higher secondary school, you need to have chemistry as a subject in your school education, and you need to have chemistry as a subject in your higher education. So there would be many people who have, for example, done IT, they've taken computers, okay, and they've done B.Sc IT. It is difficult for us to, sort of get them placed in a school, because in a school, they need school subjects to be your major. So if you're planning to be a teacher, make sure that you do your graduation in a school subject. But there is also another way out, which I will tell you just now in maybe 2 minutes. Then if you want to be a teacher in higher education, which is in undergraduate courses or in postgraduate courses, what you need is you need to do your PhD program, okay, in whichever course that you want to teach, and you need to clear some kind of a teaching eligibility exam. In India, it is known as the National Eligibility Test or the State Eligibility Test. These are pretty tough. They're competitive exams and quite tough to clear. Okay. And then you have one more huge option open, which is teacher education, which is what I do. If you want to teach teachers, then you have to do your basic graduation, you have to do your post graduation, and then you have to do a graduation in education, and then post graduation in education, and then PhD. Okay. So that is the part, whatever it is. If you want to teach in higher education, PhD is a must. You must do it. But this is only if you want to do, if you want to teach in an educational institution like a school or a college. If you become, for example, an astrophysicist, you're going to have the next session on becoming an astrophysicist as a career. Or if you become a CA, can you still teach? Of course you can. There are academies which train people in how to crack the CA entrance exam. And you can always go and teach there. Okay. If you want to do a teaching as moonlighting, something on the side, you can become a YouTube educator, which is very big. Many of my students nowadays have their own YouTube channels and they teach on YouTube. You can join any kind of an academy like Byju's or Khan Academy, and you can become a virtual teacher there. So virtual teaching is a very huge field which has opened up for teachers. There is also tutoring, online tutoring, which is quite big, which has opened up for teachers. So actually, if you see, if you enter any profession, you can become a doctor, you can become a lawyer, you can do your MBA. If your passion is teaching, then you can become a teacher in any profession. Okay. Now the point is, how do you discover whether your passion is teaching or not? Which is why I asked you the question, have you played being a teacher any time? If you're somebody who really is happy when you're, teaching your friend, you might have taught your friend sometime, and you're really happy when you're teaching or explaining something to someone, or when you're explaining something to your younger siblings, and that makes you happy. While learning, if you learn like you're teaching yourself, okay, then it might be possible that you might have a passion for teaching. And I would really like you to just experiment. Okay. Another thing which may tell you whether you have a passion for teaching is if people come to you with their doubts. If a friend comes to you and says, I understand it when you teach me. And this is how Byju's started. Okay. The person who has founded Byju's, the learning company, people started coming to him and saying that if you explain it to us, you explain it in a very simple way and we like it. And that's how he has founded such a, he's a very rich man today. So if that is the case with you, then you might have a knack for teaching, and please do explore it. I'm not saying do your B.Ed or D.Ed or whatever. You can take up any profession that you want, and you can still be a teacher in that profession. Okay, but please do consider this as a teaching profession. And now we come to the end of the talk where I have a video that really touched me. Okay, so I'm just requesting the IT team to play this. I'm going to stop sharing my PPT here. Yeah. Can I request the IT team to please play this video?
I have a lot of memories from when I was a child. One that's always stuck out to me though was when I was about 10 years old and I was in school and I struggled. And I didn't struggle with English, math, or science. I struggled holding still. And I would try to listen and focus and process ideas, but I couldn't help myself. And to be honest, I would sit there and then I would just start tapping. And the students in the class would look at me and they'd say, hey, stop tapping. A lot of the time, I didn't even realize I was doing it. And then eventually even the teachers got after me and they would yell at me and they'd say, Clint, you have to stop tapping. It got so bad that I got sent to the principal's office for tapping. And he said to me, okay, maybe when you go back to class, just try sitting on your hands. And so I did. I went back to class, and when I felt myself starting to tap, I did this. I sat on my hands. And that worked for about 5 seconds. One time I was tapping in class and my teacher, Mr. Jensen, he looked at me and he yelled. And he said, "Clint, stay after class." And I thought to myself, this is it. I am done. Now, I've always been the type of person that believes that a single moment in time can change a person's life. And this was one of those moments for me. And I will never forget it. And so I was sitting there with Mr. Jensen and an empty classroom. And he walked past me and he sat next to his desk and he said, "Clint, come here. I want to talk to you." And as he looked me right in the eye, he said, "Now, I need you to know something. You're not in trouble. But I do have just one question that I have to ask you." And he asked, he said, "Have you ever thought about playing the drums?" And in that moment, Mr. Jensen, he leaned back and he opened the top drawer of his desk. And he reached in and he pulled out my very first pair of drumsticks. And he held them in his hands and he looked at me and he said, "Hey, Clint, you're not a problem. I think you're a drummer." And from that moment on, I've never put those sticks down. I've toured, recorded, and played drums all over the world. My whole college education was paid for with drumsticks in my hand. Just because of a single moment in time when somebody believed in me and he saw something in me that I didn't even see within myself. And from that moment, I learned that there's a difference between being the best in the world and being the best for the world.
And so if you want to be the best for the world and you would like to help people discover themselves, I think the hashtag of this program is Discover You, isn't it? So if you would like people to discover themselves, then the best way to do it is to be a teacher. Thank you so much. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
That was an extraordinary and inspiring session by you, ma'am. Your creative session enlightened us and kept each one of us engaged. Now, we would like to request our speaker, Ms. Gauri, to kindly answer a few queries put forth by the audience. May I invite the moderator of the session, Ms. Shanti, to pose some questions from the audience to you. Over to you, Shanti, ma'am.
Thank you. Good evening, ma'am. It was really an insightful session to enhance teaching as a prospective career. Let me quickly scan the questions received in the chat box. All right, over to the first question, ma'am. Could you please suggest what are the career prospects in teaching and associated domains for the students for a better understanding?
Okay. So nowadays, career prospects in teaching have really increased a lot. Earlier, it used to be only the government schools, but now we have many, many private schools, private universities. All of them need teachers. Earlier, teaching used to be a full-time profession. Now you can do teaching and you can do something else as well. So in a way, and also with virtual teaching, the whole world is open to you. You can become visiting faculty sitting in Oman for maybe a school or a college in UK. That's also possible. So you can explore virtual teaching options. You can explore in-person teaching options. You can explore teaching options at various levels, like we said. You can explore teaching options in various fields. If you become a pharmacist, you can teach in a college of pharmacy. If you become a fashion designer, you can teach in a college of fashion design. So if you have a passion for teaching, you can teach in any field that you get into. Okay, and the qualifications would differ from each field, what they would ask for. So it would depend on which field you're getting into to decide the qualification. But the prospects are quite amazing. And if you have your own channel on YouTube, you can really make money. Or you could become like you could found a learning company like Byju's and mint money too. So that's again an option in teaching. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, ma'am. One more question for you. How much importance is given if a student opt for teaching in his career pathway?
Importance as in, let me just share with you that we receive thousands of applications for the B.Ed course. And out of those thousands, only about 10% get selected. Okay, so there is a lot of demand for teachers. Once you opt for the course, probably, earlier the perception was, in fact, I have had many people ask me when they ask me, what do I do? And I've said, I'm a teacher. I have had people ask me why, but why are you a teacher? But let me just tell you that the importance might, it's not something that comes externally. The importance is about how you feel about your own work, whether you really, you value your work and you value, in a way, the contribution that you have to make to people's lives. If you can feel that importance inside you, you exude it, and once you exude it, everybody around you will give you that importance. You will walk into the room and you will see the love on your students' faces, and that will make you feel like you're the most important person in the world. So yeah, it does give you a lot of respect, a tremendous amount of respect you will get if you're a teacher. Yes.
Yes, ma'am. Well explained. Yes. Thank you so much for all your insightful answers. Over to the MCs. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am, for all your support and guidance given to the large audience by attending to their concerns so patiently during the course of the discussion. Dr. Grace Joseph, MBBS, is the academic head at the Healthcare Academy, ISDC Global. Dr. Grace Joseph, MBBS, is the academic head at the Healthcare Academy, ISDC Global Bangalore, and also the head of the Department of Allied Healthcare and Sciences, JAIN deemed to be University, Bangalore. Dr. Grace has been a physician in primary healthcare with years of hospital experience in Karnataka, Kerala, and the Czech Republic. A graduate of Kasturba Medical College, Manipal, Karnataka, Marymount International School, London, and Dharan International School, Saudi Arabia, she brings a comprehensive outlook to healthcare practices and goals. As a medical doctor and educator, she is enthusiastic to contribute to the advancing development of medical sciences and global welfare, hoping to inspire positive and productive outcomes. It is time for us to move on to the second part of the session, the time to meet the university spokesperson, Dr. Grace Joseph, MBBS, the academic head at the Healthcare Academy, ISDC Global Bangalore, with the topic Difference between BA Psychology and B.Sc Psychology out to enlighten us. We are joyous to welcome Dr. Grace Joseph. The platform is all yours, ma'am.
Thank you so much. That was a lovely introduction and a very beautiful video that we had seen from Avenir, and it really brings out the variety of different careers that we have. And I'm sorry, I think there might have been some small miscommunication that I was not aware of that particular topic of BA versus B.Sc psychology. In fact, I had prepared a presentation on different science careers which are available to students who are now entering into their professional lives. And so I think we can maybe, if it's all right, we can move ahead with that topic and we can address the psychology differences at another talk that we can be having with ourselves. So hello everyone and good afternoon. I'm Dr. Grace. I'll just share a presentation that I have. And as I said today, I was asked to actually speak to you on the different types of options you have as a career, as a profession in the sciences. And of course, the sciences are such a huge and incredibly big area of study and of work. And I'm sorry, I'm trying to get the slideshow started, but I don't think it has started yet. Okay. Just a minute. So ironically, though, I am speaking to you about different types of scientific careers that will be available to you. I am not very tech savvy myself, so I think we'll just continue with the presentation as it is right now. So the topic that we can discuss today is exploring new pathways in scientific careers. And as you know that many of you are in the higher part of your schooling, some of you are just exiting from school very soon, and you'll be entering into your professional lives. And I'm sure you have a wide interest of different ways in which you can apply your skills, your knowledge, your abilities, your talents, and so that you can make a benefit to others in the world. And one of the options that some of you might be interested is in science. So in our science professions are by and large very unique because they have very specific needs that they attend to, but at the same time they are very interconnected. So the industry that you will be entering into, whichever science you choose, is going to be a global industry, and there are people around the world who are working 24/7 in every country who are going to be contributing a little more knowledge, a little more advancement, a little more understanding about the world that we live in and the world that lives within us. So when we look at science careers, many of you might have heard about the STEM careers, and this is an acronym for science, technology, engineering, and maths. And these are different types of sciences which can be applied to solve real world problems or to get an understanding of real world environments. And recently, the STEM has also been expanded to include arts, where it is now an acronym of STEAM. So these are very different types of disciplines, but at the same time, they are also very interconnected and very important to each other. And that's why when you do get into any one particular science, you are automatically going to be introduced to the disciplines in other types of sciences. So the acronyms themselves are very apt because STEM branches out into more and more avenues and more possibilities. STEAM also is a way in which we can combine all our inner potential into a manner in which it is ready to be projected out into the world for a greater good. Okay, so when you look at science, again, science is such a huge topic to think about because it is everything. So everything from the outer universe to the inner universe that we have. So everything that exists is explained, is defined, is created by science, because it is a way in which we can make ourselves not only understand what is, but also think about what can be or what will be. And so this is very important to us because this is the environment that we live in. This is the world that we that we have a responsibility to, not just in any one particular area of it, but in all the areas that we as humans should be able to take charge and have the understanding of what the world is, so that we can then go forward and protect the world and also create new ways of improving our own lives and improving the life that you see on this planet. So there's a lot to read on these slides, but it's just to give you an idea about the types of ways in which we approach life, we approach our environment, our surroundings through scientific disciplines, to scientific study. And so we can see just IT and multimedia, biological sciences, chemical sciences, physical sciences, and social sciences like crime scene investigation. So when we look at the characteristics of science professions, so again, when you are thinking of entering into science, and some of you who are near to the end of your schooling, you may have already chosen subjects in science, so you know that this is the area that you're going forward in. Some of you who are yet to choose your mainstream may still be debatable whether you would be cut out to be a scientist. Now, I would say that everyone is a scientist in their own right, because science is all about understanding, about learning, about getting to find solutions to problems which we see around us, and also to get a better understanding of the environment that we live in. So it starts with observations, and once you have to have very keen observation. Once you have observed the minute details around you, then you start to question what these details mean. Then you start to create ideas of what you think could be the reasons for a situation being like that, and what are the possible future potentials in that situation. And then experimentation, you try out some of those ideas that you have. Analysis, you make an unbiased judgment of the trials that you have made, so that you can then find the truth in what you're looking for. And finally, you come to a conclusion, which invariably will lead you to more observations. And so it is always a mentally stimulating area where you will never tire, you will never finish learning about everything in the world. So we've seen in the songs from Lion King, there is more to see than can ever be seen, more to do than can ever be done. And that is what science tries to embrace. That is what science wants to get involved with. All the things in the world that we at different levels can get a better grasp of. So of course, one person cannot do everything, and that's why we have many disciplines where different scientists in their own fields, in their own way of working, will be able to contribute to each other, so that we can improve ourselves as a society, as a species, and be responsible to the others on this planet as well. Okay, so now, since we are very short of time, I'm just going to let you know about some of the trending B.Sc programs that we've seen in our university. This is the programs we have in just one of our campuses. There are many more. And as you go through your future exploration into science careers, you'll find there are limitless numbers of ways in which you can apply your skills in the field of sciences. And so if you're we're just going to go over a few of these today, and then maybe if we get time for another one, and on another day, we'll be able to explore some more scientific career options for you. When you're going through a progression of sciences right now, most of you are still in school. You'll be just soon coming into your final year of schooling, and then stepping out into your professional careers as young adults. And so the first step, if you want to really work in sciences, would be to get a Bachelor in Science. So Bachelor in Science degree will give you a very specialized training in the way that a scientist must think, in the way the scientist must conduct their research, their experimentation. And once you finish that, it would be desirable that you go forward to a master's. And then from a master's, you can go forward to a doctoral degree as a PhD. And the reason why we encourage you to proceed further to higher education is that with every step, you are going to not only get more knowledge and get more understanding and experience in those fields, but you'll also start to define who you are in that particular industry, in that particular area of study. And you'll be able to find a specialization that you find interesting for yourself and which you are passionate about. And you'll also, in turn, in time, become an expert in one area of study. And that will be a benefit to others in the scientific community, because they will be able to come to you with any requirements that they need on those particular areas. So for this, you're going to look into doing a lot of research, a lot of publications, a lot of articles, a lot of experimentations, and don't shy away from this, because this is really what's going to create a very unique identity for yourself in your career, and also it's going to give you that much more confidence as you proceed forward as a scientist in different areas. So there is a lot of overlap of these different sciences. So I'm just going to start off with some of the biological careers that you can go into. So biology, of course, is a very interesting science that many people do like to go into. And there are ways in which you can apply your talent in biological sciences, everything from medical careers to allied health careers to a lot of different research-oriented careers and molecular medicine careers. So that is something that is really coming into the forefront right now, this molecular medicine, because as we go deeper into the human body and get into a very specific, very intricate biological processes, we start to see the differences from individual to individual. So whereas maybe a century ago we had broad outlines, broad categories that people would fit into, right now the focus is much more going towards personalized medicine, personalized science, personalized research, so that as an individual we can start to realize the uniqueness of our own cellular makeup, so that we can then use that knowledge to proceed forward. So you can have a look at the different types of ways in which you can go forward in this. So it could be from medical sciences, ecological sciences, industrial sciences. There's so many ways in which you can apply yourself. So when you are going into sciences, though many people might think that you need to have a very logical mind and a logical approach to the career that you choose for yourself, I would also remind you that all scientists have a very great respect for their gut instinct, that is their intuition. So as we go through the slides, do read as much as you can in the limited time that we have. And if something stands out to you, something really catches your interest, realize that this is your intuition speaking to you and telling you that maybe this might be an area where you will do very well and you will be able to contribute very well. So now a lot of the degree programs that are available to you at a university level will be combined degrees. So for instance, we have a B.Sc program in biochemistry with genetics, with biotechnology. And this is because though maybe one might stand out more, all of these different combination subjects are very important to each other, and they're very interrelated, interconnected, interdependent, and having a sound understanding of each of these areas of study will make you a little bit better at understanding the types of studies that you're going to be doing when you're working in these fields. So biotechnology and genetics may be the standout features right here. So we're looking at things like stem cell research, regenerative medicine, understanding DNA composition, the differences in chromosomal maybe anomalies, and different ways in which we can start to understand the human genome and be able to then utilize this. Of course, there's a lot of ethical debates about how far we can take this and how much we should be able to interpret, not just interpret, but manipulate biotechnology and genetics. Again, this is also an interesting part of your career as a geneticist, and you will also be called upon to give your opinions on what it is that we can do with our knowledge of genetics and biotechnology, and how we should or we should not combine these two sciences to benefit mankind in a way that may or may not be as beneficial as we might think. So another combination that you may see offered in different universities is the B.Sc in chemistry, microbiology, and biotechnology. So again, biotechnology is something that we have seen that is the interface between our natural systems, that is the biological systems which were created by millions of years of evolution, and the combination of technological systems that we as humans have created over hundreds of years and have been advancing as much as we go forward in our social evolution. And so again, this is a very interesting. Microbiology is something which is very pertinent because there is no square centimeter of this planet where microorganisms do not exist. So they are everywhere, and they are much more powerful and much more influential than we had ever known before. So this is something that we want to get a better understanding of. There are these living organisms which live in the microscopic world. We want to know how they affect animals, plants, human health, agricultural health, medicines. What can we learn from them, and how can we utilize that knowledge to create a lot of benefits as we go forward? So you can see here one of the ways in which we can utilize microbes and microbiology is pharmaceutical testing, then disease treatment, biofuels, and biocorrosion control, wastewater treatment. So these are all very important areas that people are finding difficulties with sometimes, and we want to find natural ways, natural solutions, so that we do not create any kind of imbalance in the environment that we live in. All right. And physics, mathematics, computer science. So I think I'm sure many of you have seen popular TV shows that revolve around physicists and engineers and mathematicians. And while some people might think these are very dry and very boring type of sciences to study, some of the most enigmatic and the most charismatic people in human history have been those who have had the ability, the mind to learn about how we calculate the different environments that we live in, from outer space to inner space. How is it that we can make sense of the world around us in a very formulatic way? So once we understand how to use formulas to get a better understanding of what the world is actually presenting to us, then we can use those formulas to then go one step forward. And this is where we go into aeronautics, where we go into space travel, where we go into biotechnology. And there's so many ways in which we need to use physics, we need to use maths. And of course, everything now is very much connected to computer sciences. And while earlier maybe it was a lot more time consuming to work out different equations and different formulas, because of our advances in computer sciences, because of our advances in digital technology, we are now able to use our artificial components to make this process much faster, much more enjoyable, much more accurate. So, but of course, nothing can replace the human mind. So if you feel that you have an aptitude towards this kind of organization, so that's basically all this is. All science is just organizing data in a way that we can clearly understand and we can clearly utilize once we have organized it. So if you do have an affinity towards that kind of thing, then definitely look into adopting one of these careers. And so another combination that you might see, I think we've already discussed about physics, mathematics, and computer sciences. So there are many ways. Once you understand, once you have a proficiency in a particular science, there are so many ways in which you can apply that, so many industries you can apply that, so many companies that you can work with. So the first step would be to get a science that you enjoy, become very good at it, become proficient in it, and then you find ways in which you can utilize that in a in a way that will give you that satisfaction that I have done something positive with the knowledge that I have. So again, there are different industries you can go into. As ma'am said, education is always a very nice way to pass forward the understanding that you have had. Then medicine is another one, and engineering, space, and earth. So again, it just do your own research online and start to see how it is that physicists, mathematicians, computer scientists, how do they apply their skills to different industries. So this is not just in maybe a very state kind of academic setting. A lot of times you will be working in some of the biggest companies in the world, so that you can then apply your knowledge to the kind of products that they deliver to the public. So biotechnology, we had also spoken about it. It is very interesting. Again, that interface between biology and technology, where will you be able to apply this? Again, everywhere, wherever we have human societies, wherever we see environmental environments, we can then apply our understanding of biotechnology to create a situation where the beneficial aspects are maximized and the adverse aspects are minimized. So again, do you want to work with medical devices? Do you want to work with nanotechnology? Do you want to work with agriculture and improve our food outputs? Maybe something like optics, because the visual world is so important to all humans. And can we go forward and go further in our understanding of optics? Do you want to work in molecular electronics? So you know that electronics are getting very small now, that nanotechnology is coming to play. And there are ways in which we can use that, which many of us have not even thought of right now. So again, how do you see this going forward in the next 50 years, in the next 100 years, and how can you push it into the direction that you think it should be going to? Genetics is, again, very interesting. So genetics is something which is already inside all of us. We are organisms that are largely determined by our genetic structure, and that is also a type of code, which, just like any other technological code that we now are in the process of learning about, millions of years ago, this code was created within us. And how do we now decipher that code? How do we use that understanding of that code to predict any kind of potential problems that people might have? How do we use that code to create a better environment, better organisms in the future? Now, we're not talking about genetic selection. We're talking more about how to improve crop fields, how to reduce disease states, and how to understand different types of pandemic control that, as we have seen during the recent pandemic that we were all involved with. These are the sciences that have really pushed us into the state where we are today, so that we can safely say we have not been overcome by another organism because of our understanding of sciences and of genetics and of microbiology. So microbiology, again, we are looking at different ways in which we can have a symbiotic relationship. So some of you are already in sciences and you understand that kind of relationship status that we can have with other organisms. So when we want to work with microorganisms, they are everywhere. There are more numerous microorganisms than any humans or any other larger species. And it is a situation where we need to have an understanding and a relationship with microorganisms so that we can then start to improve our own environment that we live in. So again, we're looking at food and dairy microbiology, so important right now in knowing how we can use different types. There are good microorganisms from our perspective, and there are harmful ones as well. So we need to make that differentiation. Which are the good ones? Which are the harmful ones? How do we create a kind of environment that we can utilize our knowledge of good and bad? So genetic engineering, we had mentioned before, then agricultural microbiology, industrial microbiology, environmental microbiology. So these are all ways in which you can then start to think, which is the area that I want to contribute to, which is the area that I think needs more people to work with? Is it the environment? Is it medical fields? Is it maybe just the biotechnology? You need to think to yourself that I have the ability to make a difference, and so which one will I choose? There are a lot of choices for you right now. Biochemistry careers, very interesting. So while the words themselves may not elicit a lot of exciting images in people's minds, there is a lot that we are doing now with biochemistry, microbiology, and all these different traditional sciences and applied sciences. There are ways in which we are getting to know more in this year itself than we had known in thousands of years of our previous human history. And so this is something which is really groundbreaking and really a frontier. It will always be a frontier, because as much as we learn, we will always learn more, and we will always be seeking more and trying to get better applications to what we have learned. So if you have an interest in biology, and now when we're looking at biochemistry, we're looking at the very smallest aspects of a biological structure. So it's not just molecular, it's not just cellular or molecular or atomic. We're looking at the chemicals that make up the different types of substances, different types of tissues, and the ways in which these chemicals react with each other. So everything around us is a chemical reaction happening continuously, nonstop. And so we need to be able to notice and to identify those reactions. What is happening everywhere on us, in us, around us, and be able to really say that, yes, I do understand now why certain things happen because of the chemical reaction. So that is biochemistry. And chemistry, again, is very similar to that. So again, when you are understanding the chemical composition of different substances, including our own living substances, then you will have a better understanding of why certain things happen, why certain diseases happen, why certain drugs are able to interact with other substances within the body, within our external environment, and how we can then get the best effect out of that. Now, the next slide we're looking at is renewable energy. So this, again, is something that we are talking about all the time. We're looking into finding ways to not rely on limited energy sources, because as our population is growing, as our needs are growing, as our lifestyles are growing, we need energy sources, but we don't want to be reliant on depleted energy or almost depleted energy sources. So we now are looking very creatively, and for these sciences, you need to be creative. You need to be able to think outside the box. You need to, even though so much has been created right now, there's still other things that we have not thought about. Maybe you will be the person who thinks of something completely new, something completely different, or a hybrid of different ideas that we've had right now. So again, this is something that not just societies around the world are very much interested in, but also the biggest companies in the world and the biggest industrialists in the world, like Elon Musk and Google. They're all looking for ways in which we can protect our planet, and which we can help our planet to go forward in our needs on the planet. Okay, so many. Now you can see here the type of companies that you can work with. Do you want to work with Nestle or GSK or Siemens or any of the other major companies in the world? If you can show that you understand these sciences and how we can really use our knowledge to find better ways to power the human world and human activities, then these are the companies who will be actively seeking your services. Okay, so marine sciences are very exciting, very lovely thing to study, because the oceans are such an important part of life on Earth, and the majority of our planet is ocean life, and we have not even explored more than 15-20% of the oceans till now. So there's so much we can learn, because if you have watched any nature documentaries about the oceans, you'll know the type of biodiversity that's in there. There's so many different types of animals that have evolved in very interesting ways, and the kind of knowledge that we can get from those marine animals and how we can then apply it to our land life is also very interesting. Now, another aspect is you want to protect the seas, the oceans. A lot of pollution and destruction is happening, physical, chemical, in the oceans right now. And it is our duty, it is our responsibility to see that we find ways to stop it from happening, find ways to reverse it. And though people have been working everywhere in order to get those solutions, still many people have not been able to find doable solutions. So again, is this where you are going to be making your mark? Is this the where you are going to be creating a benefit for humanity and for this beautiful planet that we live on? So again, you can be an oceanographer, you can be environment economist, researcher, and there's so many ways in which you can. It's not just one job role. This science will then lead to many, many different job roles. You will be able to choose one of them for yourself. Forensic science is something that everyone is very much interested in because we've seen so much of it in our mass media of movies, TVs, and we know that, you know, in the kind of human society that we live in, there are differences of opinion in what is ethically right, what is morally right. And so when we have defined some kind of dilemma in legal aspects, then we need somebody who can look into those, look into the environment that it happened in and be able to find very minute clues, or not clues, evidence. So as a forensic scientist, your job is to look for evidence and recognize evidence, classify evidence, and be able to deliver that evidence in a court of law. And so there are different ways. It could be criminal forensic sciences, it could be corporate forensic sciences. So we're looking at fraud cases, we're looking at signature frauds, currency fraud, and maybe it could be with toxicology, looking at ways in which different poisons work, in which different drugs work, and how we are able to identify those things in different tissue samples. So again, a lot of ways in which you can apply yourself once you have that basic degree knowledge in forensic sciences. So do you want to be a pathologist, a toxicologist? Do you want to do something with digital forensics, IT and forensics? So there are many ways in which you can help people to understand what a situation was and be able to give them empirical data on what actually happened. And from there, people can move forward. Okay, so I know that we are running a little short on time, so I'll just go quickly through the rest of the slides. Animation again, is something that is very close to all of our hearts because it again is related to multi-mass media. So everything from the very first animated feature films from Walt Disney right up to the live action films that we're seeing now, and to commercials, to advertisements, to there are so many ways in which the world is using animation. So many of the summer blockbuster movies will be having those kind of special effects in which it can only be done through animation. So the difference between other types of digital work in movies and this is that you need to have some aptitude for creating images. So if you are an artist, if you are a drawer, painter, if you are able to create some kind of image and create it in a way that it can relate, can be relatable, and can connect to other people. So what we want is to bring life to those characters and to make them as relatable as possible. And at the same time, that because animation has again become so advanced in technology, it is no longer enough to create very simple animations. We are looking at every single detail. So there are softwares, there are programs that will be able to change the way your characters hair flows or the way your character's clothes flow and the types of shadows and lights that are in a particular scene. So there is so much to learn in this and to be able to be the best at this. And again, in terms of career options, film studios around the world and marketing studios around the world are looking for people who can do exactly this, who can understand the importance of an animated character or an animation in a scene, and you'll be able to then apply yourself in any of those major companies around the world. So VFX, so that is visual effects and animation. Gaming is also something very interesting, non-media and entertainment. And so even physical media is not just digital media, but even physical media requires animators. So maybe you'd be interested in animating children's books or animes itself. And so just to have an idea of where you have seen animation in your life, and where do you think that you would like to be working with? So you will not be working alone, you'll be working with many great teams and bringing forward something that will last for years to come, because these are the things which will be handed down generations from now. So gaming again is something we had looked into, and I'm not a particular gamer myself, but I think many of you would have been in contact or be familiar with different types of online games that are available now, single player, multiplayer, and you know the level of detail that goes into this. It's absolutely amazing, the way that you have a 360-degree POV, and then the way in which every detail comes up, and the type of storylines that are available, the type of characters that are available. All of this are places in which you can get it. So first you need to have a basic understanding of what gaming is. It is no longer just something that teenagers used to do at, when after school, when they were having a break. It has become a professional sport. And so it is gotten to that level where we need professionals who can understand the importance of what gaming does to our mental processes and how we interact in a game in order to be able to do our best in that particular game. So the experience of the game and the outcome of the game and the popularity of the game all depends on the people who are working it in different areas of it. So when you're looking at careers in gaming, it comes under either strategy and planning, or the creation of the game, or the gameplay. So do you want to be a designer? Do you want to be an artist? Do you want to be an animator? Do you want to put in the visual effects, the sound effects? All of these are areas which no one person can do all of it. So which is the area that you want to contribute to? Think about that if you really enjoy gaming, and if you really want to bring it to the next level, because we know now that with the virtual headsets, and it is going to be much more immersive. And so we want to make sure that it is worthy of the type of abilities that we have as humans to create our own worlds. So digital filmmaking, media, again, it's something that we all love to watch, way in which we can create worlds in a film setting. And so in today's world, many of the major film studios around the world, whether it's in India or China or US, Europe, every film studio relies very heavily on people who understand digital filmmaking. So there was a time when we had those old film cameras with reels that had to be physically cut by hand. And now, as with every digital platform, digital film cameras have become so very advanced that it's something that is a joy to work with. So I think those of you who enjoy taking photos, taking videos, making reels, I think you would enjoy the opportunities you have with these type of digital film cameras that you'll be working with. And it's not just for movies, it's not just for TV documentaries. We've all seen those amazing nature documentaries that have such detail of every part of the animal being studied and the environment, and being able to follow that animal on different activities that it does. So this is all done by a camera person or a film person. Now you can also work in the post-production area, you can work in the filming area. Once you are adept at filmmaking, you will then be able to work with the film crew and be able to make sure that the audience is getting the best possible experience that they can get. And all of these, as you know, are very huge industries. They're all multi-billion-dollar industries. And so we want to make sure that when you are entering into those kind of careers, that you are worthy of the type of responsibility that they entrust onto you. Okay, now data science and analytics, again, very important, because you want to know how our activities in the world are being perceived and how effective they are, how they are changing trends that are going on, and what we need to do to improve the conditions that we're working with. So again, this is a very interconnected sciences where you need to, again, have that organizational mindset to be able to take data and create a kind of graph where you can see what that data has been interpreting and what are the future projections that we're looking for. Okay, so again, every single science that we are talking about has so many job opportunities, so many job portals that you can move forward in. So don't hesitate to take up a science career thinking that you'll be pigeonholed into one particular boring job. There's so many places in which you will be in high demand, and you need to be able to understand where you want to apply yourself and then approach those particular companies. So again, data science, very big in travel, marketing, social media, automation, health, sales. So all the things that are part of each and all of our lives is connected to the work done by data scientists, data analysts. And so if you also want to be a part of that, you can go ahead. Now, when you are looking at getting a B.Sc degree for yourself, then yes?
Yes, can I interpret this time up? So shall we?
All right. So I just wanted everyone to know that there are professional bodies which also will be integrated to some of your careers. So look for that, because that will again help you with that, and go forward, create a future with any science that you choose. Go ahead and very boldly go where no man has gone before. All right. So reach out to us through any means that you want, and we can conclude for today. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much for the informative session. Now, let us all watch a video on Jain University.
Welcome to Jain deemed to be University International Admissions Office. NAC A++ with a score of 3.71 on a 4-point scale. Rank 79 under the NIRF, the National Institute Ranking Framework. 2,500 plus students on campus and 6,500 plus online students over 50 plus countries. 7 campuses across Bangalore with modern and latest infrastructure. 120 plus programs. Allied healthcare and sciences, commerce, design, engineering and technology, humanities and social sciences, languages, management, PhD, sciences. Your future begins here.
I am sure that the process of exploring and inquiring has begun in the minds of students and parents. I'm certain that there are bound to be a few questions. Let us take up one or two of them. For this, may I now invite the moderator of the session, Miss Shanti, to pose some questions from the audience to you. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Rayan. Good evening, ma'am. The session was very informative. All right. So I would like to scan few questions from the chat box. And, so the question is, ma'am, what are the job prospects for environmental science and technology? Could you please answer?
Okay, so environmental science, as we had been discussing before, all the major companies are looking into ways in which they can be environmental friendly, where they can go to green technology, and because this ultimately will be going not just cost effective, but also have long-term utilization. So we are in a process of shifting from traditional ways of activity to environmentally friendly ways of activity, and we do feel that this is a time when we have to, as society, all come together to find creation. So what I would suggest is go forward to any of the major industrial companies and see what is their stand, what is their prospect of environmental fuels and environmental changes that they're making, because it is a time when we need to change a lot of the old practices into new practices. So many people are still struggling how to change that. So whichever type of company you want to work with, ask them whether they have become environmentally friendly and whether they would like to explore new options to improve their output in their companies. So I think that would be the best way.
Thank you, ma'am. I have one more question to share with you. What education do you need to become a biological technologist and technicians? What education we should do it? Could you share some?
So in biotechnology, again, as we were seeing before, there are many options in biotechnology right now. It could be just B.Sc biotechnology. It could be a combination, as we had seen in some of the previous ones. So you would definitely want to do a degree course in biotechnology, a science degree course in biotechnology. And then from there, you may want to then start to look into what kind of specialization you want to do in biotechnology, go forward into a master's. So start off with a basic bachelor's degree, and then do a master's so that you are an expertise in one area, and then you start to work on your personal profile, your professional profile in biotechnology, and start to get experience by doing internships and doing a lot of work with companies that are involved in this. So they could be medical companies, pharmaceutical companies, IT companies. There are many ways in which we are now incorporating biotechnology into different industries. So work with them, get the experience, get a better understanding. So there is academic learning and there's also field learning. So you need to do both together in order to be one of the front runners in that area.
All right, ma'am. Thank you so much. So, ma'am was explaining about STEM. So, my question is, are STEM research experiments employed to arrest some hereditary diseases?
Are STEM employments related to hereditary diseases? Yes, so as we were looking at the option of genetics and being a geneticist, STEM does incorporate different types of sciences and technologies, and all of that would come into play when you are decoding that genetic code that we were speaking about earlier, to know the type of places on the chromosomes where diseases are carried. So once we understand that this particular section of a chromosome is writing the program for a particular disease to come into a body, and it is not absolute that it will happen, but there's a high chance that different chromosomes will go into that, then we are able to either predict ahead of time and take the required treatment, or we are able to find ways to stop that chromosomal development from happening. So these are all very cutting edge areas of work right now, hereditary diseases, but a lot has been done, and I think it has offered a lot of real insight into different families, and I think that's something that we want to do much more of.
All right, ma'am. Thank you so much for the valuable answers. It was a great session. So a gentle reminder to fill the feedback form provided in the chat window. Every attendee who submits a feedback form will get a digital certificate. Over to you, the MC.
Thank you very much for the incisive answers, ma'am. We have many queries, and yes, the students can access the mobile app and the questions will be directly addressed.
As we draw to the end of this enriching session, I deem it my great privilege to propose the vote of thanks. We extend our heartfelt thanks to our eminent speaker, Dr. GAURI HARDIKAR, for all her words of motivation. Thank you, ma'am. We express our gratitude to the spokesperson, Dr. Grace Joseph, from the Jain University, for sharing details with us and giving us an overview of the exploring new pathways in scientific careers. Thank you, ma'am. Our deepest sense of appreciation and gratitude to Chairman Dr. Sivakumar Manikam and the members of the Board of Directors, Indian Schools in Oman. Our heartfelt thanks to the President, Mr. Ajayan Puyara, and members of the Indian School Vouchers School Management Committee and the principal of the school, Dr. Bhavesh Bhalerao. We request the participants to kindly fill in the feedback from posted on the chat window. Heartfelt thanks to our platinum sponsor, Jain deemed to be University. Gold sponsor, De Montfort University. Silver sponsors, Dallas Baptist University, USA. Grey Matters, SP Jain School of Global Management, Sri Raman Chandra Institute of Higher Education and Research. And bronze sponsors, Middle East College, SP Jain School of Global Management. Digital Marketing Partner, Spectrum and Trefoil. Media partner, the Arabian Stories and valued donors. And are powered by and support sponsors. Over to the sponsors video.
An event of this kind requires the coordination of a committed team. Thank you to the ISB's Avenir team for making Avenir 2022 possible. Thank you to the teachers, students, and parents for being a part of the session.
When you have a dream, you've got to grab it and never let it go. With those uplifting words, I, Adiba,
And I, Rayan,
wish you all a glorious day ahead. A gentle reminder to all to fill the feedback form provided in the chat window. Every attendee who submits the feedback form will receive a digital certificate. Next session.